Once upon a time, Vriti traveled all over the world building schools. Every day, she met educators doing incredible things. One day, Vriti realized they weren't accessing technology to make their instruction better. Because of that, she started a virtual avatar-based conference. Because of that, thousands of educators became interested in emerging technologies until finally she founded a nonprofit to help educators all over the world learn. And ever since that, she's been living a life worth working.
This is amazing.
Welcome to A Life Worth Working, a podcast about how we get to the soul of work. We're your hosts, Michelle Weise and Dana Allen Walsh. I'm an education and workforce strategist, and Dana is a senior pastor of a progressive church.
And as always, we love hearing your comments, questions, and thoughts. So please know you can email us anytime at hello@alifeworthworking.com. And make sure you subscribe to our show and share it with your friends and loved ones who may be searching for more meaning in their work lives.
In this episode, we chat with Vriti Saraf, who leads a nonprofit organization that upskills educators on emerging technologies and how those technologies can boost their teaching practices. So Vriti, when you kind of go back in time to the 15-year-old version of Vriti and you imagine kind of where you have come to, can you sort of paint a picture of the person you were then and the journey to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I think I was a very different person from a mindset level when I was 15. I don't think I valued education very much because I didn't know how to learn to learn. I went to school for the social environment, but I didn't feel like I was really learning anything in school, nor did I care about that. And this might be selective memory, but I don't think I was that curious of a person when I was 15. And part of the reason that might have been the case was because I grew up in a very traditional Indian household. I'm actually an immigrant. I immigrated from India when I was 5. And my family and our culture really put this ideal on women. Well, it was their ideal, not my ideal, that they should be at home, that they should not, be as well educated as men, or they shouldn't ask questions, or, all those kind of things. And so I think I was very much acquiescing to what my parents had wanted, the life that they wanted for me. And the life that they wanted for me was they wanted me to go to college, but not to learn, but just so that I could have a resume to exhibit to a possible suitor, right? Mm-hmm. That is what they grew up with. That's the life that my mom had. So that's the only life they knew. And so when I was growing up, they never encouraged education for me. They encouraged me to get good grades so that I could pass, but they never really encouraged me to learn. And they also wanted me to have a really comfortable life. And so when anything got hard, they never told me to persevere. They actually told me to quit. Wow. Because they didn't want me to experience pain. Mm. And in their own way, it was the way that they wanted to protect me. It was the way that they thought I would live the most comfortable life. And they thought that, once I graduated from college, I would get married, have kids, not work. And that was the ideal life for them that they thought I would be happy in. So when I was 15, I really did, I've actually seen some of my journals and diaries from then. And I have like really weird statements in there. Things like, yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to be married to X and Y person. And as a hobby, I'll be an artist, like things like that. They were just like, so like now they're just so outrageous to me. The thing that really did change my life was Teach for America. So I joined Teach for America out of college. And the reason I joined Teach for America was, one, because I didn't know what else to do with my life. I really didn't have any aspirations. And 2, because I didn't want to get married. And I knew that I would feel a lot of pressure from my parents. And so I thought, well, if I join a prestigious program, then maybe they won't put that pressure on me. And so I miraculously got into Teach for America. And what I learned in Teach for America was, 1, I learned how to learn. As an adult, I feel like I could consciously learn more than I ever had as a child. And I remember this feeling where I was working so hard to learn these new practices because I was thrown into a Shark Tank and was still learning how to swim. And by the Shark Tank, I mean a classroom, where
Yes.
there were 30 kindergartners relying on me, and I had almost no training on how to teach.
And where were you, Vriti?
I was in Brownsville, Brooklyn, which has some of the most highly incarcerated youth in the nation.
Wow.
It was a really tough neighborhood, and there were 30 kids relying on me. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't quit, because if I quit, it wouldn't just be disappointing me, it would be disappointing and hurting 30 kids in my classroom. So I was working really hard. I couldn't quit. And there was this moment for me where I was learning how to implement instruction so that I could engage my students and I could help them, move to the next level, whether it was literacy and numeracy. And I saw myself improving. I saw myself actually getting better through video and through the outcomes of the classroom. I had this like spark moment where I was like, oh my God, as an adult, I can grow and learn so much. Talk about growth mindset, right? And it just changed the way that I view myself. It changed the way that I view learning. It changed the way that I view the education system. It changed the way that I looked at my students. And from that moment on, I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to not only give my life to learning how to learn and becoming a better person every single day, but also to the education system, because I need everybody else to know what I know now.
I love hearing about the impact for Teach for America and how it teaches you how to really embrace your learning and growth mindset. And so tell us how you move from there into building the organization. What's that pathway look like?
After Teach for America, I was a teacher for 2 years. After Teach for America, they asked me to be a dean so that I could help other teachers learn how to be teachers. And I actually spent 10 years in the charter network that I was at. So I went from being a teacher to dean. Then I started a professional development program for deans at the administration and network level. And we ended up scaling the schools that I was with from 2 schools to 15 schools over 10 years. And then I became the network director of professional learning. And basically my pathway in that charter network was to help educators and school leaders learn about teaching practices and professional learning. Because I felt so empowered, it was easier to empower other people because I think they saw that passion in me for empowering adults because I had empowered myself.
Vriti worked for Teach for America for 10 years and then served as an adjunct professor at Relay Graduate School while working for a charter school network. Despite all of these experiences, she still felt like she wasn't getting exposed to what else was out there beyond her community in Brownsville. And so she joined an independent school startup that was building schools around the country and world, including Shenzhen, China. Every month, Vriti traveled around the country and to different countries around the world, learning from the best schools and best educators in places like India, the UK, Bali, and Italy.
And what I learned was that there are so many incredible pockets of talent everywhere, but that educators, one, weren't sharing their best practices with each other, so they were reinventing the wheel over and over again. And two, there was almost no presence of technology in most of these classrooms. And in some cases, it was the right decision. But in other cases, I wondered how their practice could have evolved using technology and how it could have helped them enhance what they were doing and really transform what they were doing using technology. And so in January 2021, I hosted the first virtual avatar-based conference for educators. I did it on my own with, a friend, really. We put together this virtual environment where we had a playground and a cafe and classrooms and a reflection area and this giant piazza. We hosted about 1,000 educators from around the world in this environment where they could choose their own learning adventure. It was an 8-hour conference on Saturday, and about 500 of them refused to leave about 12 hours in.
Love this.
It was one of the most rewarding experiences that I'd ever had. And it was such an exciting time to introduce technology to educators because those 500 educators that stayed, and even the 1,000 educators that came, they became so inspired by the experience that they had that then they started implementing that experience with their students.
Vriti thinks big. She thinks differently about the future than many of us do. She's already anticipating how teachers of the future will become super teachers with the power of AI. Her organization is deliberately thinking about how these sorts of issues will affect teachers, the teaching of teachers, and the professional development?
Vriti leads a DAO, which is a democratized autonomous organization. Most non-techies will not know what this is. It stems from the Web3 movement, which had promoted a vision for a decentralized internet built on blockchain technology, aiming to give users more control over their data, identity, and digital assets. They call it Web3 to differentiate it from the current Web2 model, which is dominated by centralized platforms like Google, Facebook, YouTube, X, etc. Web3 proposed peer-to-peer networks, token-based economies, and trustless systems. A DAO, or a decentralized autonomous organization, is a key component of this vision. It is a community-led entity governed by smart contracts, where decisions are made collectively.
At 3DAO, we created a community that was really excited to try emerging technologies. And although we knew that we didn't quite understand the utility of it, we knew that we wanted to experiment with it. And so what we started doing was experimenting with the emerging technology over the course of the years, of the last 5 years. We went from experimenting with virtual environments to blockchain to NFTs to AI to, in the next couple of years, spatial computing. And we're continually trying to identify what are those emerging technologies that are going to change the way that we can operate in education and really transform what we can do. And our lens has always been, because we have experienced, the era of Apple, computers and everything that we've experienced in the last 20 years, we know that we have to approach technology not from the perspective of let's just implement the new app that's out there, but from the perspective of let's use the pedagogies we know work really well and try to integrate AI or other technologies into that to enhance and transform them, not to just implement technology for technology's sake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious, Vriti, you talk about how at 15 you weren't somebody who leaned into curiosity. And then you've built a career off of experimentation, innovation, creativity. For some people, there is so much fear around experimentation and innovation. How have you helped yourself lean into that? And how would you encourage others to?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's really understanding the risk and identifying the outcomes based on that risk. So when I was moving into the startup world, that meant that I wouldn't potentially have a stable salary for a number of years. That was a really risky proposition for me. But what I did was I sat down and I thought, well, if I am not paid a stable salary for a year, what would happen? 2 years, what would happen? 3 years, what would happen? So really simulating what the potential outcomes could be and how comfortable I would be with that. And then creating a timeline for myself saying like, okay, well, this is the point that I will stop doing this if I cannot succeed on this, right? So it's really, for me, it was looking at the potential outcomes, looking at the risk and paving several different pathways and several different futures for myself, and then seeing how comfortable I was with those futures. And I would encourage other people to do the same thing when they're experimenting or innovating, right? What are the potential outcomes of this? Where could this lead? And how comfortable am I with the potential outcomes?
What fascinates me most about Vriti's approach to risk is how methodical she is. It's not just blind optimism, it's strategic courage.
Yeah. She has this wonderful balance of growth mindset with practical risk assessment. I think many people believe you have to choose between being analytical and being adventurous, but she's showing how they can work together. Vriti's approach encourages people to build skills, try things out, and create their own paths forward.
I think there's real freedom in that perspective. It puts the power back in our hands rather than leaving us waiting for some lightning bolt of inspiration to strike.
And what a gift that mindset is for navigating our rapidly changing world. With technology transforming industries overnight, that ability to assess risk, adapt, and continue learning might be the most valuable skill of all.
Are your parents proud of you? What do they think of what you're doing now?
My parents are really proud that I'm married and have a child now. And I think because there's still the, overprotective, we want our child to be happy and safe parents. Anytime they see me stressed out, they're like, why are you even working? Why are you doing this job? You should just enjoy your family. And, you've built such a great life. You've got such a great family. Your husband's amazing. Like, enjoy that. So my parents are proud of me, but potentially for reasons that I don't fully agree with.
Does that make you want to like dig in more when they're like, hey, why don't you just stop? And does it make you just sort of say like, no, I'm going to make this work more now?
In my 20s, yeah, absolutely. That was definitely fuel that kept me going. And, I didn't get married until my late 30s. I didn't have a child until my late 30s. So they have been really anxious for a long time, but their anxiety has, I think, fueled some of my, I guess you can call it rebellion. And, every step of the way, every time they were just like, hey, just get married, just get married. I'm like, okay, I will date and look for my partner, but at the same time, I'm going to be damn successful at what I'm doing. And regardless of, what you're encouraging in me. I mean, they're wonderful parents. Okay. They're super caring. They've always been there for me. And I am who I am because of them, for, good and bad. But I definitely have been inspired to be more rebellious and to focus on my work because they've put so much pressure on the marriage piece.
Yeah.
Yes. Vriti, I'm curious, think about your average listener, like who probably doesn't know much about AI at all, and maybe is thinking about how the future of work or like their career, like what to do with AI. Like if you could connect career pivots and work, especially somebody that is not familiar with AI.
The reality with generative AI is that it is taking over our workforce. Generative AI is being used for every function, whether from generating an email to creating strategic plans for how your company is going to evolve, right? Every single person on every single level is using it, whether they admit it or not. And when we think about generative AI, we really think about apps, right? We think about large language models, and we think about like ChatGPT or Anthropic or things like that. What's happening and what will continue happening is that the quality of our work is evolving because of AI, right? There are more people that are able to access and generate really good products because they have access to this technology. And because of that, I think the demands for what we're expected to do in the workforce are going to increase. I think a lot of people think that jobs are going to get replaced or things are going to get easier. We're going to have shorter work days, things like that. But if everybody on the planet is using it, then we are going to have a collective increase in what is expected of us, right? And so what I think is going to happen in the workforce is that your job is not going to be replaced. It's just going to become much harder. And by harder, I don't mean it's going to be harder for you. I just mean there's going to be much, much more expected of you because you have this tool. A similar sort of analogy is the internet, right? When we didn't have access to the internet, we couldn't access resources, we couldn't access communities, we couldn't access the collective, ideas and sort of thoughts of the people around the world. And before the internet, we weren't expected to know how to do certain things or access resources readily. We had to go to the library, things like that. But after the internet, it is expected of us to be able to reference resources in the click of a button. It's expected of us to be able to, write really legibly because we're using, a keyboard and Microsoft Word or whatever it is. It's expected of us to have a better ability to share things with each other and communicate much more frequently because we have email, right? So the expectations have changed, but the amount of work has actually maybe even increased. And so think about AI in a similar way, where we have this incredible technology that's going to fundamentally change the way that we operate from the workforce. And so when we think about like where our future is, the best thing that you can do is learn the technology, learn how to use it to your advantage. But more importantly, be a critical thinker, because the technology is going to continue to evolve and you won't be able to keep up with it. But if you can critically think about how you can utilize it for yourself and how you can evaluate the functionality and the utility of it, then you're going to be in a much better place than somebody who can't. And one of the things that we often talk to educators about is like, what should we teach students right now? Should we teach them how to use all these apps, things like that, especially with this executive order where, apparently we're supposed to teach AI starting in kindergarten. So the thing that we talk about to educators about is, listen, the technology is going to continue evolving, and you can't create policies for this technology for how students are going to engage with it, because they're going to have access to it even outside of the classroom. So the four things that you need to teach them, we've built this sort of framework for AI empowerment, these building blocks. And the four building blocks are: one, AI foundation. Sure, learn about the strengths and weaknesses of AI. That's great. Two, critical thinking, really understand how to critically evaluate and analyze what you're working with. Three is self-awareness and social awareness, so that you can understand what your strengths are in relation to AI and how you can understand to engage with other people, because AI can't engage with, socially with other people. And then four, cognitive off-ramping. So how do I make sure that even if I am using AI, I don't have to rely on it? And the example that I often give is GPS. So, GPS has been such a game changer for us, but, put me in a city without GPS and I'm not going to be able to get anywhere, right? And I've basically, offloaded that capacity in me to GPS. So I haven't built the skills for, being able to travel around by myself. And so we don't want to do that with AI, because AI has so many more dynamic functionalities and utility. And so what you want to do is you want to use AI as a thought partner, and you want to use AI to actually get smarter, so that if you didn't have AI, you could still do the work that you have to do. And so those are the sort of four building blocks that we talk about. And the other thing that we often talk about, this is one of my favorite things to say now, is when we think about, a lot of people are thinking about what is my superpower? What is my advantage over AI? If you think about, humanity, and you think about this phrase that often comes up in a lot of religions and a lot of philosophies, which is to be human is to suffer, right? And what that means is humans have the capacity to experience pain and love and aching and all of that kind of stuff, depression, things like that. And that changes you, right? It changes how you engage with other people and empathize. Well, AI cannot suffer, right? And so AI is never going to be able to make meaning or understand as well as humans can.
Yeah.
And so that is a really important thing for us to keep in mind as AI becomes more prevalent in our workforce.
Vriti's framework for AI education makes so much sense, especially that fourth piece about cognitive off-ramping. I love her GPS analogy. Most of us have completely outsourced our navigational abilities to technology, and we need to be more intentional about not doing the same to our critical thinking.
That's what makes her work so important. She's not just jumping on the technology bandwagon. She's really thinking about how these tools can transform education while preserving what makes us human.
And that final point about AI not being able to suffer, therefore never fully understanding meaning the way humans do, that's profound. It's a reminder that even as AI becomes more sophisticated, there's something essentially human that can't be replicated.
There's a boldness to how Vriti moves through the world. She leans into technology as a key to unlocking abundance and radical possibility in the world of teaching.
And the twist? Her parents once encouraged her to play it safe, to live a quiet, comfy life free of too many questions. Lucky for all of us, Vriti didn't get the memo. She followed her curiosity instead, thinking globally, acting boldly, and still juggling the beautiful chaos of being a mom and a partner.
Thank goodness Vriti didn't listen to her parents.
She's Dana Allen Walsh.
And she's Michelle Weise. We hope you enjoyed this episode of A Life Worth Working. If you did, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts.
And don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends and loved ones who may also be searching for purpose and meaning in their work lives, or what we call the soul of work.